Today I'm going to be making a cheesecake. Not just one cheesecake, but I'm going to be showing you how you can use one basic recipe to make many different flavors. I also want to let you know this is going to be the last video I do with my mom as the camera person, because starting in the winter I'm going to try and make better videos, and I'm going to wind up doing an e-course, and I'll be able to go into a lot more depth, and I'll even work on editing and things like that. So in the winter of 2017, keep an eye out for that, or it'll probably be done in the spring. But I wanted to leave you guys with one more video. Of course, my cheesecakes are what gets requested most of me. Are you coming? Can you bring a cheesecake? I'm like, do you even want me to come? You just want the cheesecake to come? I'm going to a potluck on Sunday, and they want me to bring a cheesecake. So this is the cheesecake I'm making, and I'm going to be bringing to a potluck this weekend. So first thing you have to do is make the crust, and that you make in your food processor. So when you make any crust, you're just going to take a cup. First I'm going to make a macadamia nut crust. Let's cross that. Macadamia nuts are good. They're expensive, but they're so good. And what you're able to do, because they are so high in fat, I don't even use dates. Every once in a while I may throw one in to get it to stick together. And if you want to make more of like a tropical crust, then you can add maybe a little bit of coconut. But this is like the kind of crust that most resembles like pie dough that people are used to. So all you do is you're going to put in the macadamia nuts. That was a cup of macadamia nuts for a thin crust. You can always add a little bit more if you want a thicker crust. And salt. And you're just going to process this until it holds together. Now, if you process any nut too much, the oil starts to come out more, and you wind up with a really greasy crust, and you don't want that. So you do want to kind of keep an eye on your... It does still look a little fine, but I'm going to check it by taking it out and squeezing it together. And you'll notice it does hold together already. And literally this is macadamia nuts and salt. And this is the point where you have to watch it, because it is sticking together but still really crumbling. So I want just a little bit more hold, but at the same time I don't want to extract too much oil. And there we go. And you'll also notice in the food processor that it's starting to get thick right here. And that's the kind of another clue that the crust is done, what this looks like right here. So I'm going to take these macadamia nuts and I'm going to put them, when you make the cheesecake recipe I'm giving you, it's enough to make 12 mini ones, or 2 thin cheesecakes on this size, because there are bigger springform pans than this, or it will fill it up all the way and make one really thick cheesecake. I tend to like the mini ones. Now, to warn you, a mini one is 600 to 800 calories, so they're not individual size per se. It's the perfect size to split with someone. So just going to press, and literally all you're doing is pressing in into the bottom of the springform, and this still is a springform pan, the nuts, and it creates your crust. This is also a really good crust if you want to do a tart. Another dessert I really like to make is a fruit tart, and I use this macadamia nut crust, make a like a quarter batch of the cheesecake recipe, put the cheesecake filling down on the crust, and then load in with all these different fruits. See, there you go. That's your crust. This is the macadamia nut crust. This is going to be a pecan cheesecake. So I'm going to do 1.5 cups pecans. You can use walnuts, you can use almonds. Like I said, you can always do 50-50 coconut flakes and nuts if you want to cut them back on the fat a little bit. So this goes in the food processor. With, again, your salt. But then while this is processing, I'm going to be pitting dates. And these dates are soaking in water. You don't always need to, these are medjoul dates. They're the best. I'm not a huge fan of the pitted dates. These are just softer and just, I just like them a lot better. You can always use pitted dates if that's all you can find, but medjoul dates have become easier to come by. So while that's processing, I'm going to be pitting the date, which is basically opening it up, finding the pit, and also there's a little stem part you take off too, and putting that aside to go into my food processor. And you can tell when the nuts are ready, because one thing, I feel like they just don't make as much noise in the food processor. It's just, there's a certain noise you hear. I have 10 dates here that I'm pitting. I don't know if I'm going to need all of them. I'm going to be inserting them one at a time so that I can watch the texture as the crust is forming. This crust, because of the date, is actually going, I'm going to put a splash of vanilla in here too, is actually going to form a ball. So you just take this little piece out so you can insert it. Balled up inside the food processor, and that's how you know it's ready. That was 7 dates. Now, something else you can put in, but I'm not going to put in this case because I am bringing it to a raw potluck, and I don't have any cacao nibs. Nope, I don't. You can also put some chocolate chips in it. These are Enjoy Life chocolate chips. You can put that in the crust, or you can put in cacao nibs for it to be 100% raw. I don't have any cacao nibs on me now. So, I'm going to insert this into the pan. One thing I notice when I do these little guys is I need to double the crust recipe. You use a lot more crust when you make the little ones as opposed to when you make one giant one. How does it smell of pecans? Let's go to Georgia, right? Georgia, is that where the pecans are from? Let's go to Georgia. I'm going to go pecan picking. Okay, there's your crust. Now it's time for the filling. That's the fun part. Now, there's 2 things you can do. You can buy your almond milk and make sure it's unsweetened, or you can make it, which I made yesterday. So I made some raw almond milk, and I have a video of that. And it's just 1 cup of almonds with 4 cups of water. Blend it, and then you strain it. And you've got 2 cups of that. And of course I have my blend type blender, which can blend cell phones. This is 3 cups of cashews that I soaked for a couple hours and then drained. And they're raw cashews. It really does make a difference when the nuts are raw. They react differently in the recipe. They don't swell as much and things like that. Amazon has been a really nice source for nuts lately. Nuts.com, otherwise, is my other favorite. Maple syrup. Maple syrup is not raw, but is my sweetener of choice. You can use honey or you can use agave. I use maple syrup. It is cooked, though. I use organic maple syrup. That's important. They don't tap the tree as much, and there's been articles that non-organic maple syrup cuts their syrup with formaldehyde to get to come out of the tree faster, and then they're like, but we cook it off so we don't have to tell you, and I don't want that in my maple syrup. we have maple syrup, we have, and then we need some lemons. I usually don't measure my lemon juice. I just take a lemon and I'm going to squeeze it into the cheesecake. And I'm going to guess that that's 2 tablespoons. Now, if you want to make a lemon cheesecake, you can replace 1 cup of the almond milk with 1 cup of lemon juice, and then you have a lemon cheesecake. We have the lemon juice. You know how much I like to measure things. You want to make sure you get good vanilla extract, not imitation vanilla. This is the real stuff. It's Madagascar bourbon, pure vanilla extract. I sometimes card it at Trader Joe's when I'm going to buy vanilla. Not so much anymore. I guess I look older, I guess. Then what we're going to do is this is cocoa butter. If you want to use 100% coconut oil, that is absolutely fine. But this is cocoa butter. It comes hard, so you do have to melt it. I usually put it in a saucepan on low. And like I said, this is going to be 1/2 cup of cocoa butter. And if you want to use all coconut oil, you would use 1 cup. But we're going to do 1/2 cup of each. And the reason I like cocoa butter more, it's supposed to give it kind of like a white chocolate feel. But it also is a firmer oil, and what keeps a cheesecake solid when it's cold is simply the coconut oil and the cocoa butter. It's a little bit firmer of the cheesecake. That's it. That's our filling. Separate this. So this is 6 cups of cheesecake filling. And I'm going to put some of it in. Normally I just use the same blender, but I want to show you a couple different cheesecakes. So in here I have some raspberries, and I'm going to pour some of this filling in and blend that. And here I have some, and I'm going to be throwing in some chocolate. And I'm going to have all these measurements for you, like below, so don't worry about that. So first, see if I can blend a couple of these. Is we have some of the white chocolate filling in here, and we're just going to kind of splat some chocolate into it, and that's going to be our chocolate swirl. I'm also going to just make a pure chocolate one in one of these containers. I have the raspberry, I have the white chocolate in here with some raspberries that I hid underneath, and I'm just going to pour some raspberry filling on top to swirl. I'm going to use a swirling device. Chopsticks work well. Say I'll just use a knife. And to swirl, you just go back and forth in your cheesecake, and you'll also see some of it underneath when you're cutting into it.